At Home Radio, a podcast that finds meaning in everyday conversations. I'm Kate Jones, and today I'm speaking with Rachel Friedman, who trains service dogs, and Kathy Caputo, who has a service dog in training. Welcome, Rachel and Kathy. Thanks so much for being here. Rachel, I'd like to start with you because you're the one who picked out Kathy's dog. So, and interestingly, actually, you have a master's in social work and you're a licensed independent social worker. You're also the owner and president of A Better Pet, which offers training and products that enhance the human-animal bond. And we can get to your website a little bit later. So I'd like to know, how does your social work training come into play at A Better Pet?
Well, first of all, let me just say it's a pleasure to be here. And I am really delighted to have the opportunity to sort of share what is a very big passion of mine. I kind of came into the world of teaching people how to train dogs for service dog function as really a natural offshoot of my of my social work background. So let me just say that I've had a lifelong passion for animals. And I actually had a cousin send me a photo of me training a German Shepherd at the age of 8. So it goes pretty far back.
Wow.
I was really honored to get that picture because I didn't remember, but I did. I used to play with their German Shepherds because as the youngest of a large clan of all the cousins and everything, I often just ended up playing with the animals because nobody wanted to play with me. And I think I was better off for it. But I went to, I had a kind of rocky 20s figuring out my path and did all kinds of interesting things. And eventually I ended up going to graduate school in social work. And when I got out, I started early on in early childhood development services, like generally birth to 3. And the comparable age range in dogs is roughly birth to about 4 months or 16 weeks. And then I became a mother and I wanted to create the opportunity to be giving my daughter the belief that I was a stay-at-home mother while working full-time. And I ended up getting into emergency mental health crisis intervention work because I could work overnight, I could work on weekends. There's no timeline on when somebody might be having a psychiatric crisis. And so for many years, I really struggled with the administrative rules of the formal job situation and realized I had the entrepreneurial spirit. And I kind of complained to coworkers at my last real job. And one of my coworkers just challenged me. I kept saying, I want to be a dog trainer. I want to be a dog trainer. And he just said, well, go do it. And I said, okay. And so without a business plan, without any money, without any real idea, I just started. But to be perfectly honest, most of the dog training clients I have, whether they're service dogs or pet dog clients, which I also serve, are either coming to me with a young animal problem. So it's kind of like a developmental understanding, or they're in a crisis. And that's why they're calling for help. They've probably been in a crisis. I did 3 trainings just this week, and all 3 of them all said, I wish I'd called you a year ago.
Wow.
Okay.
That's wonderful, Rachel.
So it's sort of trying to be a preemptive thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing pet dog training about 21, 22 years ago. And it was just a natural thing that I would start doing service dog work. And in the beginning, I volunteered my services for other nonprofit organizations. And again, I got caught up in the administrative confusion of somebody else's mess. And I said, no, I can't work with people. I have to be my own responsible entity.
Sure. Animals are way better.
Well, animals are way better. And I answer to myself, and I have a very strong moral code and a passion. And, Kathy will tell you, if you ask her, I make myself available to her like literally 24 hours a day. She knows I can't always answer right away, but I answer as soon as I can because I want people to know that I'm there for them. But the service dog training just became a natural thing. And the longer I've been doing it, the more dogs I'm doing, which is why I'm starting to breed my own. It's fun. Part of the reason I do it also is that if I have my hands on a dog from birth, I can control how it's going to be raised. and I know how to raise a dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. This is great. And just as a little side thing, you talk about you studied kids, in the early, time in their development, and how that relates to dogs from birth to 4 months old. Are there many similarities between child rearing and dog raising?
Well, yes, there are a lot of similarities to them. A lot. The thing about raising a human or a dog well is that if you don't, if the dog or the child experiences too much negative stuff, too much trauma, it can create personality disorders.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure we all know people out on the planet that might be diagnosed with personality disorders. I'm not mentioning any names here, but and so too can dogs develop some significant problems from experiences they had before they get to be 4 months of age. I'll give you a really good example that might be interesting to your listening audience. A lot of people who are well-intentioned but relatively ignorant will get a puppy. They'll take the puppy to the vet for a shot, and the vet will say something like, "Don't socialize your dog until it's 4 months of age," because that's the end of the immunization phase. They get a shot at roughly 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and 16 weeks, at which time they get the rabies, and then they're immunized. And I think what they really need to be saying is be mindful of with whom you socialize your dog with. Make sure they're healthy and nice, but by all means socialize your dog. Because if you wait until 4 months and then you start socializing the dog, it's too late.
Wow.
Then you're going to have some real problems with the behavior of that dog. And they're not going to, from my perspective, ever cut it as a service dog.
Wow.
And not a true service dog. It's not to say the dog can't be great and can't be trained. I'm just saying for the kind of dogs I want to work with, and I want my clients to be living peacefully with for many, many, many years of service. I'm not going to start out with a dog that isn't the right make and model.
Right. Yeah, that's very good. Well, okay, service dogs. I think a lot of people have a general idea of what service dogs do. They help individuals with physical disabilities and also all kinds of conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder. So you mentioned when we spoke on the phone that you train your own dogs to be service dogs.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I've been training dogs for a long time, and I train my own dogs to meet the standards of a service dog. But as it happens, almost 4 years ago, in June, it'll be 4 years, I was in the middle of a very busy year. I had a puppy, a service dog puppy living at home. My youngest daughter had just graduated high school and was going to spend the summer living with me. And I'm a yoga freak. I do yoga almost every day. I went to a yoga class, as I always do. And literally in the middle of the class and in the middle of a down dog, ironically enough, I fell over and had lost the entire use of my left leg.
Jeez.
I had no pain. Nothing else happened. I just couldn't move my leg. And I thought, well, I'll just go home and see how I feel. And I called my sister while I was sitting on the yoga mat, unable to move. And I said, what do you think, urgent care? And she's like, well, how do you think you're going to get there? And I said, yeah, good point. Needless to say, I was rushed to the emergency room at Cleveland Clinic. Thank goodness. Yes, I'd had a stroke. I was able to get the medication within the time frame that you need to get the medication to prevent it from progressing. And then I spent the next several days getting tests. But while I was in the emergency room waiting for all this stuff to happen, my daughter came to visit me and brought my dog. As soon as she saw me lying on the gurney in this room, in the emergency room, she jumped on the gurney and she became my service dog. She became my service dog right then and there. Wow. And nowadays, her son is really my main service dog. And what he does for me is when I have mobility issues, which isn't too common, and it's been less of a problem since COVID because the main mobility issues I have, I had to like rewire my whole brain to learn how to walk again. So it's who knows where in my brain my leg movement happens, but it isn't 100%. And I need to, when I'm in a more difficult place, I'm sure Kathy can relate to this too. When I'm in an environment where there's either a lot of people moving around or the ground is uneven, I have to put a lot of my energy into just staying up. So what my dog does is he prevents me from falling over. And he also, now that he's 2 and he's big enough and strong enough, I can use him for bracing if on a rare occasion I fall down and I need any help getting up. That doesn't happen often, but if it happens even once in a blue moon, to have a dog help get you up off the floor is really handy.
No kidding. Wow. And did you train your dogs to do this, or was that in them to know you so well?
That's a really great question, and this is one of the things Kathy, among other service dog clients, struggles with, understanding how important the relationship is, and that they need to come to look out for this person. So sometimes I give the expression, fake it till you make it, just pretend, because that's how it's going to happen. So to answer your question, I trained him the way I trained him. And as soon as I asked him to do something that would be helpful for me, he picked it up in 3 seconds. So everything is in there. I just need to know what I want and what I use him for. And I just went hiking last week for the first time in a long time. When I needed his stability, I taught him to pull me because a little bit of tension kept me going. Okay. And when I didn't want him, I just said, stay with me. And he didn't pull anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's handy. And nobody can tell. Nobody would know in a million years that he's doing this for me. It's very subtle. Kathy's situation is a lot more obvious. Yes. Mine is really subtle, but both of us deserve to have a dog help us in public if we need a dog to help us in public.
Agreed. Well, Kathy, let's talk about you. You work for Cleveland Clinic. What do you do there?
My title is actually wellness specialist. So I manage the wellness programs, but also I do customer service and billing for their insurance area. So I'm very busy on a regular basis. It's kind of a stressful job. If you know anything about working in healthcare, there's nothing is ever simple. Nothing ever goes the way that you want it to. And as I tell people,
yeah, it's a vast system, to work, work out any bugs that might arise.
Yeah. And, and it's amazing how much you impact people's lives. I mean, when someone calls you and said, I just had a baby and my baby's in the ICU and they're telling me that I don't have insurance, what do I do? And you hear the stress and the worry in their voice, and to be able to help them through that is rewarding.
Oh, that's beautiful, Kathy. So why do you need a service dog?
I have cerebral palsy, which limits my mobility. I use a wheelchair, and then I also use hand crutches as well. But I also suffer from anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay. All right.
So, Olive is really good Olive is my service dog. She's really good at helping me stay calm and helping me to be sort of even in a stressful situation. But she also, she's learning really well how to help me physically, to pick up things and just to be there when I need help. And also, interesting story. So this morning I dropped my keys and she went and she picked them up. I didn't teach her to do that. I didn't tell her to do that. She did it on her own because she knew I needed her to do it.
Oh, that's wonderful. So
that's great, Kathy.
Yeah.
That is a wonderful thing. You have that relationship going.
Yeah, I mean, we're learning together. Like, that's the coolest part about doing this as like an owner trainer, is Olive and I are learning together and we're bonding together as we do it. It's not like in a normal situation where you just get a dog that someone else trains and they, and you just get whatever functions they give you, I can teach her what I need as as my needs evolve and as I need help and what I need and how I need it. And it's so amazing. And she's so intuitive. It's really amazing. Rachel told me that when we talked about Olive, but the more I see it, the more I agree with her that she just knows.
That's really.
You just know.
She's a little doll too.
Yes. She's got quite a fan club. She definitely brings joy to not just me, but to other people also.
Oh gosh, how old is she?
She is. Oh my goodness. She was born in what, July, Rachel?
July 15th.
Yeah. So,
and how soon will she be considered a full-fledged service dog?
She already is.
Okay.
She already is because she's providing a function. It's sort of like any practice requires constant training. It never ends. It never ends. Just like meditation, right? You don't just suddenly, I've meditated, I'm fine. You do it when you need it. And if you get it into a habit, it's every day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to be honest, what she just shared with her picking up the keys is new to me. And I know Kathy and I have, Kathy is in the phase of the training where I call it the transition, where the dog is going from being with me full time to her full time. And the transition is within a 6-month agreement, the most demanding part of my time, because that's when they really need the guidance. They, things are going to come up and they're going to have questions, and I want them to feel comfortable asking the questions so that it can just move forward. And I think I'm being successful with Kathy because this is really fantastic news.
Yeah, Rachel will tell you, I text her pretty much all day long with various things that I'm dealing with Olive, and she's always there. So,
oh, that's great. So what qualifies someone to have a service dog? Are there particular things you have to demonstrate or certain personality traits? I just don't know.
Well, the two questions that are allowed of people who might want to challenge your right to be somewhere, right, for public access. There's two questions. Kathy, do you know what those two questions are?
Yes. So they can ask if the dog is in fact a service dog, and they can ask what she does for me, but they can't ask my individual disability.
So like I've been questioned. I took my dog to the beach not long after the stroke when I was really pretty still wobbly. It took me a good year to really get my leg back. I could move, but I was breaking my toes all the time. And, it was like, it really taught me to slow down. But I got stopped by a cop at the beach, and he said, "Is that a service dog?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "What does she do for you?" And I said, this was before Shamrock was even born. Franny was helping me. I said, "She keeps me from falling on my ass." If I'm allowed to say that on radio, I don't know. Can I say something else? Am I allowed to say that? Is that okay? And he said, "Okay, carry on." And that's it. No one else has ever asked me.
Well, that's good. But
yeah.
But you, Kathy, you had a service dog for a brief time prior to Olive, isn't that right? Weren't you stopped?
No, I had a pet.
Oh, you had a pet.
His name was Cody. That was actually how I first met Rachel. Okay. Is that I brought Cody to Rachel when Cody was a puppy. Cody was separated from his mom a little bit too young. And so Rachel helped me a lot with training and socialization, but he never quite had the temperament for service dog work.
Okay.
But he was definitely a good dog.
Okay. Cody. A lot of good names. I love Olive's name.
Well, Rachel named her, so that's
that's a great name. So, Kathy, you mentioned to me when we spoke a while ago that there's a lot that goes into having a service dog. And for instance, and this really kind of blew me away, that owners need to carry with them when they go somewhere with the dog a doggy diaper bag. Who knew? So could you just tell me a little bit about both of you, what goes into it that you have to be aware of? I think, Rachel, you said it's not all lollipops and rainbows or something like that. There are things you have to be responsible for with this.
Yeah, I think it's different for every person. I don't, Rachel, I mean, you would probably know more than I do, but I think it's probably a little bit different for every owner. But my doggy diaper bag has treats, it has a bed for Olive, it has various toys, and various chewers that she can have. There's, poop bags in there. Just, whatever we need for that individual day or whatever it is that we're doing.
Yeah, generally speaking, what I tell my clients is that we're going to create a doggy diaper bag, and that's going to include everything you could possibly ever need for any outing you do. So a complete kit, so to speak. And other things I might say is have a collapsible water bowl or some way to give the dog water, a towel, I think baby wipes or, some sort of, now we've got so many sanitary wipes.
Yeah.
We can find them at the store in sizes and colors, right? And, like one, the equivalent of a meal in case you get caught out later than you expected to. And this is something they learn over time as they can start going to the same places. A lot of times they're going to the same places over and over, or a similar, like they might go to this doctor for this appointment and this doctor for this appointment, but they're both doctor appointments in a medical building. Okay. And so the diaper bag is probably more substantial earlier on in the relationship where she's at now. There are times I go out and I take nothing except the dog, no treats, no nothing, because we're working and we know it. And I know that I'm not going to be gone so long, or it's going to be so dire that I need to bring food or water, and I don't really think they're going to have an accident, but I always take poop bags. I have poop bags in every pocket of everything I own.
That's a very important for any dog owner.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Walks, it's just so important to be a good citizen.
I teach the 6 P's. You know what the 6 P's are? Proper prior planning prevents poor performance.
Oh, yes. I have heard that before. That is really good. And yeah, planning is good. I want to talk about Olive again. And there she is. She's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And I find that really interesting. I prior to getting to know both of you, that was never a breed that would have immediately come to mind as a service dog. So my question is, can any breed become a service dog?
Yes. However, there are some breeds that I wouldn't recommend because it will be a lot harder to train them for function than another. I personally predominantly prefer, that's a lot of P's. I prefer the sporting breeds. And why? Sporting breeds, which are like Labrador retrievers, golden retrievers, Springer Spaniels, Labradoodles, poodles. Actually, poodles aren't really in the sporting breed. They're in the working class, but the working group. But these are dogs that are bred to be companionable to people. They want to please people. They're hardy. They come in different sizes and different energy levels and different coat types and different amounts of, care needed. But they're easy because that's what they were bred for. When people pick other breeds, like for example, German Shepherd dogs. I love German Shepherd dogs. They are not for everybody because they take a lot more work to train. And often the people that get them are not equipped to do what they need to do to train them. And so that they become more of a liability than an asset.
Yeah.
But they can be awesome, but they're a lot harder. And then there's a whole kind of superpower I think I have. I think my main superpower is I know how to match people with the right dog. And in Kathy's situation, the two ways that I do service dogs these days is somebody will approach me, we'll discuss whether or not they should have a service dog. Then we'll discuss whether I'm the person that should help them, and then can they afford me? And then we decide yes. And then I figure out what kind of dog they need, and then I find that dog for them. And then I raise that dog for a period of time. Cooper, the yellow lab I have right now, is for a person that hired me before I got Cooper. We were originally supposed to do this coming spring, but then a litter of puppies that had one that was going to be perfect for him came along, and I gave him the option to start earlier, and he went for it. And so here we have Cooper, right? So Cooper's here, and he's thrilled. He loves this dog. He comes to visit as much as he can. So that's a dog I got specifically for him. This is a gentleman with Parkinson's and depression and, loss of independence, loss of mobility. He's not that far along, but it's a progressive illness. So he's not going to get better. He's only going to be stable or get worse. So I wanted to get him a big dog. This dog is going to be probably about 90 pounds, 95 pounds. I wanted a really calm, steady, good, easygoing, gets along with everybody, is really cute and super easy to take care of.
Okay.
Now, the other way I do it is I find a puppy, and I have my ways, and I say, wow, this is a great puppy. And then I buy that puppy, and then I train it. And then the right person eventually comes along, and poof, it happens. Yes. Every time. Mm-hmm. Every time. Kathy came back to me after Cody had passed away and told me she wanted to revisit the service dog thing. And I had Olive. I don't think I told her about Olive right away. Did I, Kathy?
No.
I didn't. Because I didn't know yet what she really wanted and needed. Because it could have gone in a couple different directions. Mm-hmm. But I think that once I got to talking to Kathy and I watched her with Olive at this program I run in my backyard called DIP, which is a dog play group that I offer my private pet and service dog clients. And Olive really gravitated towards her, and I started to think, And then Kathy started to notice Olive and went, And here we are several months later, where it worked out for her to be able to get Olive. And they've been together. How long have you been together now, Kathy?
I think it's 2 weeks?
No, you've been together longer than that. Does it only feel like it's been 2 weeks?
It feels like it's been 2 weeks.
It's been so when they get the dog the first time, after I've been raising it for a while, they have what I call a 3-day sleepover. Okay. So she had her 3-day sleepover, and I told her, even if you don't want to, you have to agree that the dog comes back to me, even if it's just for one night, because you need to stand away and say, is my life better without the dog? Is the dog too much so far? Do I want the dog back yet? And that informs a lot of things. If the person says, wow, that was really a lot more than I thought. Could you teach the dog to do this better? And then I do. Kathy was like, no, I want her back right now. And then she couldn't get her for a couple days, but not because she didn't want to, and not because I wasn't wanting her to, but because snow got in the way.
Okay.
So it was a weather-related thing.
We got snowed in.
Kathy also knows that if for any reason whatsoever she needs respite, she needs a break from the dog, whatever, Olive is always going to come back to me and just be maintained. And she is able to do that as part of the agreement. And when the agreement is over, if she needs respite, the dog can still come back. She would just have to pay for the boarding fee.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, when you and I talked, you said something about the dog's energy and the kind of dog you look for. That there are two kinds. I shouldn't say it. You should say it, Rachel.
Okay.
About them, a dog either reflecting an owner's, mood or where that person is, or being aware of it and helping. And that was an incredible distinction to me.
Right. So basically, I feel, and this is a relatively recent epiphany, although if I thought harder, it would have come sooner. But it's based on doing this, like I said, for 20 years professionally and full time. I have interacted with so many dogs. But I really feel like there's two kinds of dogs in the world, regardless of breed, age, size, color, coat type, gender, etc. Country they live in, doesn't matter. They either generally tend to be more of the kind of dog who absorbs your energy, your mood. You're sad, they're sad. You're excited, they're excited. You're angry, they're angry. You're anxious, they're anxious. So they absorb your mood and then reflect it back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Often people with anxiety disorders or PTSD will pick a dog that mirrors them. And then I say, I really hate to tell you this, but that dog will never be a service dog.
Yeah.
Okay. It just doesn't have the right, just like you might want little Johnny to be president of the United States, but he doesn't have what it takes to be president of the United States.
Right.
Although that may not be the best example. But and that's okay. There's a place for everybody here. Right. So the second kind of dog, which is the dog I personally want to live with and look for, is service dogs and even pet dogs for people. Why make things harder than they have to be, right?
Right.
The kind of dogs I look for will take your energy, whatever it might be. They'll absorb it. And then if it's not serving you well, they'll spit it out and reflect back at you something that will help you change your mood into something more positive. So an emotional support dog or an emotional support animal is a dog that is well behaved and helps you feel better, but it doesn't have a specific trained task. So the best example to explain that, from the first dog who absorbs your energy versus the dog who deflects your energy, is you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed, and the dog is like, I'll just sleep with you all day, every day. And then the other dog is saying, damn, woman, get out of bed already. I got to go pee. Come on, let's go. It's a beautiful day. Come further, come further, come further, come further. And then you come back and you're like, wow, it really felt great to get fresh air and exercise. Everybody's been telling me to do it, but it actually helped. And then the dog is telling you every day to do that. So that dog is helping you lift your mood.
Yes.
Help you. So the other most clear example is, let's say you're prone to panic attacks. Okay. And let's say you have one at home. The dog will come and maybe comfort you afterwards. Oh, it's okay. You'll feel better soon. The trained service dog will catch you before you even know you're anxious enough to get into a panic attack and completely stop it and redirect you in a better direction.
Wow. That is incredible.
And that's what I teach Kathy to recognize, so that because it's really hard to acknowledge when you're feeling well. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to praise a dog for doing nothing, even though nothing is exactly what it needs to be doing right then. So fail to let it know, hey, that's sitting there doing nothing while we're at the office. It's great. Keep doing that. Instead of like, why are you bothering me? Why are you bothering me? Why are you bothering me? And the dogs also, for me, like, I can get caught up in working for hours and hours and hours. With puppies, I can't. They're like, Rachel, we have to go pee again. Or Rachel, we're hungry. Or Rachel, we're going to just like get under your feet until you like pay attention to us. So it forces me to find balance too.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a win-win.
It's good for the dog, and the relationships are good for the canines and the humans.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship, exactly.
That's
and the dog, a lot of service dog organizations will say only the handler can interact with this dog. No one else can interact with it. And I say, that's baloney. That's just baloney. The dog can have a relationship with everyone in the family, but it's this person's identified service dog. Spread the joy.
Yeah.
I think what Kathy described is like a perfect example of how not only is her dog her service dog in training, and it's really kind of subjective as to when we take the in training off. She's already capable of working her in public, as much as we're in public these days, right? I mean, I think she's taken her to a couple places, but certainly not going to as many places as we would in non-pandemic times. Yeah. But that will be coming. That will be coming. By the time she's ready, by the pandemic is stable and we can go out, Olive will be amply trained for that.
Yeah. I took her to a doctor's appointment yesterday. She went to Twinsburg Family Health Center with me yesterday. And, Rachel, when you were talking about being aware of the dog doing nothing, but still doing something in the process. So a doctor's appointment for me is a very anxious situation. Like, I get very anxious in a doctor's office, and she knew that. and she sat on my lap and she licked my face, and she was just like, "Hey, it's okay. Like, we're fine." And I just started laughing because she's licking my face, and it's funny. This lady's trying to talk to me, and the dog is licking my face, and it did make me feel better. But she redirected my energy. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't focusing on myself. I was focusing on Olive.
That's lovely. Really great. So for both of you, is there anything else you'd really like people to know about service dogs? I know you have scores of stories about them, and we talked about their importance. Is there anything else that that you'd really like people to remember about service dogs?
Well, I would say from my perspective, a couple things, which you sort of alluded to, because we'd had a conversation a few days ago or yesterday. I don't know. It feels like it was a few days ago. Right. I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore.
Oh no, every day is the same.
But that, it isn't all lollipops and glitter, right? I mean, you've got to like pick up poop. If they throw up, they do sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got to pick that up, and you might want to do something and you can't because you have to do something with the dog. So there's responsibilities, and it's not for everybody. And then secondly, because I'm telling you, I am flooded with people who email asking, can I help them train their dog to be a service dog? Mm-hmm. And the reality is that most of the time, the answer will be, you don't want to do that. I will do a training for you and you will see why, but this dog is just not the right dog for you. I wouldn't do it with you. I wouldn't have you spend the money to train this dog when I'm telling you right now, it's a great dog, but not for the job. So it's being able to be proactive. And if you're going to go look for a dog that's going to be a suitable candidate and you want to train it yourself, get professional help with a positive trainer. I just did a training earlier today with a young woman who got a rescue dog and went through a service dog organization near where she lives, which I think is about an hour from me, maybe 45 minutes from me. I don't even remember what direction. But they had her using a shock collar and a choke chain, and the dog doesn't handle that well. And I said,
poor puppy.
I said, I'm really sorry you got hooked up with a service dog organization who's using those methods, especially on your dog, because your dog is really emotionally very sensitive. So now the dog is kind of a hot mess. And I don't know if it will actually ever be a service dog. I told her I think it could be an emotional support animal for you at home, but that's mostly where she wants it anyway. So I'm going to probably, because she's asked me, now that we've met, do you think this dog could be a service dog? I haven't answered her yet. I would probably say, not really. No, I don't really think so. I don't want you to waste your money on me. Why don't you train this dog to be your emotional support animal? And that will be good enough.
Mm-hmm. And do you work with people for that also, or do people?
Yeah, anything. Service dog. Like I had another Cavalier, which is not a breed I normally use for service work. But I got one earlier this year and he was so much fun. That's why I got Olive. I was like, let's do this again. Mm-hmm. And they're different, but they're both great. They're half brother and sister to each other, same father. But the owners of that dog, the mom is a clinical psychologist. So she uses him as a therapy dog in her practice, and he's a family pet. So I do therapy, service, emotional support dog, and pet dog training. I don't do specialty things like sports and things. I'm really more about the foundation so that the owner can go anywhere they want with their dog once they have the foundation. I'm like the elementary school and university rolled up, then they're going to graduate school.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. Well, do you want to give your contact information so that if anybody wants to get a hold of you?
That would be great. Thanks for asking. So my website is abetterpet.com, because I can't promise the best because that's a work in progress, but always getting better. And I would say if people are interested, what I would ask them to do is to peruse the site for sure. There's lots of material and information there. And then there's a contact us button, pretty much accessible everywhere, to fill that out. And then, we'll follow up and get back in touch.
Yeah, you've got a wealth of experience and information. So I think you must help so many people and their dogs. So thank you for doing that. That's great. And Kathy, is there anything else you'd like to say? I know that you I understand you have a GoFundMe. What is that for?
So, as Rachel was talking about earlier, training a dog and just the needs of a dog, it's expensive. I mean, there's so much that she needs that most people don't even realize. Training materials, just regular sessions. I mean, I'm at Rachel's house, what, like once a week? And Rachel and I do Zoom trainings and things like that, but there's just so much that goes into having a dog, having a service dog in general, that unfortunately everything costs money. So I do have a GoFundMe set up, Kathy and Olive, Operation Service Dog, on GoFundMe, that you can follow our journey. We're also on Instagram, so I post videos of Olive and pictures all the time. Kathy and Olive on Instagram, and you can kind of follow us on a regular basis.
And that's
It's
Kathy with a K.
Yes, Kathy with a K. And Olive. So she's kind of like my internet mascot.
One
And
last quick thing I want to say, I really think this needs to be said, especially for someone like Kathy, who's such a lovely person. But when you are navigating in the planet in a wheelchair, people often just sort of are uncomfortable or it's awkward. So
That's
one
true.
of the other things about being different that way is that the dog, especially a cute little thing like Olive, is like this bridge to social connections.
That's true.
And that is right in itself a really life-changing kind of experience. And that I'm teaching Kathy, you don't let the people bypass you and interact with Olive. They have to go through you to get to the dog. They have to acknowledge you as a thinking, breathing person and not dismiss you as the person at the other end of the leash of this really nice dog. And that develops more confidence in navigating through the planet, and it will bring interactions, even if they're just one time for 3 seconds, it will increase her social interaction a lot. And that's don't you see that as a big benefit?
Oh, definitely. I have to tell you, I've learned more of my neighbors' names in the past few weeks that I've had Olive than I probably have in the 2 years that I've lived here. So I mean, she's amazing. And it was really great when I took her to the doctor's appointment yesterday, and you go in there and they ask you all those COVID questions, and the nurse that was asking me questions, she and I were talking, and she was talking to me. She wasn't just asking me questions and saying, okay, go on now, like, we're done, but we actually had a really great conversation. And why did we have a really great conversation? Because she was asking me about Olive, and we were talking about service dogs, and she was talking about her daughter who also has anxiety, and how she has an emotional support dog with her at college. And so and if it wasn't for Olive, I wouldn't have those interactions, and I wouldn't be able to educate people on how important it is, how important service dogs are, but how normal it is to have mental illness, and that it's okay.
Everybody has something.
Yes.
And so it's a way of connecting with each other too, to find that common ground. And you didn't know that, so about the other person. So that's really quite a wonderful story. Thank you.
Thanks for letting me share.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely delightful, and I'm so happy to see you, Kathy. I'm so happy to meet you, Rachel. And it's you are doing wonderful work. So good luck with the puppies coming into the world in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
for your dog.
Hashtag, what have I done now?
And
like, Chase wasn't enough.
Yeah. And they're all going to turn out to be great dogs. We know that already. And Kathy, good luck and have fun
you.
with Olive. I mean, obviously you are already quite the pair. So it's
Yes, we
really
are.
nice. It's fun to see Olive, and she is a doll. So anyway, thank you both very much. And I hope to talk to you down the line as well. So
Well,
Awesome.
thank you for the opportunity. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
yes, thanks. Okay, well, this is At Home Radio. Until next time, thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
At Home Radio, creator and presenter, Kate Jones. Music, video, produced by Jonathan, the producer.